Well, we are making pickles today, and it could not be easier. A little time consuming, but it could not be easier using Mrs. Wage's pickle mix. Well, first of all, these are Mercury cucumbers, very small seeds in them. I've got some over here that I cut up. You can see the seeds are very, very small. The skin is real thin. They pickle real well. And that's what we're using. Grew them out in the garden. I've got some more Sumter cucumbers growing, and I want to reserve a couple of batches for them. I've been told they're very good. So pack your pickles, slice your pickles, wash them and pack them in the jars. Now what I did in the bottom of these things, first of all, I've got some peppercorns. You can see a few peppercorns in there. I've got some sliced onions in there, and I've got some garlic in there, some sliced. You can put a whole clove. I did that at first, but I found that some of the pickles were too tall if they were sitting on top of a clove. So I went ahead and sliced it so the pickles would sit down in there a little bit better and not have one or two of them sticking up because they're sitting on a garlic clove. But peppercorns, garlic. I put a little bit of bell pepper. Any kind of pepper you have would be good in there. Even a hot pepper would be good to stick down in there, especially if you like your pickles a little warm. And then pickle crisp. Gotta have this. I did not use it on my first batch because I didn't think I had any, and then I looked and I did. And they were limp. We don't want limp pickles. We want crunchy pickles. So pack them all in there. I've got on the stove right now, I've got my Mrs. Wage's mix in vinegar and water. The amounts are on the package, directions are on the package. When that comes to a boil, the mixture, the Mrs. Wage's mixture, and she makes a dill pickle recipe and a kosher dill pickle recipe. I've got the jar pretty packed with goodies down there. And the peppercorns, and when this gets boiling over here, bring medium boil, medium heat, bring it to a boil, and then we'll pour it over these gently because these are not as hot as I would like them to be because the pickles were in the refrigerator. So I'll have to let the mixture cool down a little bit because I don't want to pour boiling mixture in a cold jar. That is a recipe for a crack and a bust. We don't want to do that. The recipe, by the way, will do 7 quarts, which is what a canner, typical canner, will hold, 7 quarts. We're going to water bath these, not pressure can. So we got it off the stove. It reached a boil, and we were stirring pretty much constantly. And we're going to start ladling it now, and it is hot. And again, the jars are not, so I'm going to ladle very, very slowly. I don't want to bust those jars. Canning jars are tough, but they're not that tough to go from cold to hot real fast. I know that some of y'all purists are saying, boy, you're supposed to heat up your jars. And I was like, well, they were, but they're not now. I put cold pickles in them. Got a paper towel to try to keep myself from spilling it everywhere. I'm just going to go real slow. Start warming the jars up a little bit. Maybe put 2 scoops in each one for right now. 2 ladles. Again, if your jars were hot and your pickles were hot and everything was hot, you wouldn't have to do this. You could just put it in there pretty quick. Some of you good canners, sure enough good canners are probably screaming at me right now saying, you're doing something wrong. And I might be. This is my 4th load, and so far I hadn't done much wrong. They turning out good. Again, the first load I didn't put the pickle crisp in it, and they were not crisp. And I haven't opened a jar yet of the ones that I did put the pickle crisp in because I just hadn't ate up the first jar yet. I hate to have 2 or 3 jars same pickles in the refrigerator. Only so much room. Now some of you, I'm sure, that have been pickling for years. You go through and you get some dill, and you get your herbs and spices and stuff like that, and you wouldn't use this mix for nothing. But this is my first time. This year is my first time to pickle successfully. I have pickled peppers before, but I've never pickled cucumbers, made pickles. All right, at this point, should try to get the air bubbles out. There's going to be air bubbles trapped down in there. I don't have a plastic knife, but the handle of this spatula would work. Just go down in there and try to alleviate or try to relieve some of the bubbles that might be hiding down in there. All right, now we're going to get a wet towel, a wet paper towel, and you can wet it with vinegar. I've got water on this, and I'm going to wipe the threads, and I was also going to wipe the tops. I probably got some juice on those threads, so I want to wipe those off so it doesn't just make a sticky mess when I bring them out of the canner and try to take that lid off. But I do see some residue on the tops of these for sure, so make sure you wipe the rims for sure, and I'm going to wipe those those threads too. So at this point, we're going to put rings and lids on them and get them ready to go in the canner. I'm going to tighten these. I haven't tightened them yet. So this is pretty warm, but I'm going to tighten them finger tight. I'm not going to really crank down on it like that. I'm just going to tighten it the tightest I can get with my fingers. Like that. I've used these lids, or these rings, many times. I have not used it this first time for the lid. You don't want to reuse the lids unless you've got Tattler. All right, I've got my canner over there warming up, my water bath canner. I bought a new water bath canner that I really, really like. I'll show that to you. These go in the canner, and then we'll start getting the canner up to a boil. So I've got the jars in the canner. This is again a water bath canner. The water is about 1 inch above the lids, and it's not very hot right now, as you can see. And it's been my experience, it takes about 30 minutes for this thing to get up to a boil. So I'm gonna put the lid on it. And again, this is a new, I've used this, I say it's new, I bought it last year. But it's a new water bath canner for me. All stainless steel. Really, really like it. Does 7 quarts. I don't know how many pints. I haven't done pints in it. I haven't filled it up with pints. But I'll put a link to this below. I'll put a link to the Mrs. Wages pickle recipe, the kosher dill pickle, and just the regular dill pickle recipe. It's $2 or $3 a piece, if I remember right, on Amazon. You may can find them in your grocery store. I'm gonna go give those. Some of them have some bad places on them. I always got the bad places off. But I'm gonna go give those to the chickens. They love cucumbers, and we're gonna wait for this to boil, and then when it starts to boil, a good boil, you count 15 minutes for quarts. I think it's 10 minutes for pints, 15 minutes for quarts. Leave them in there 5 minutes, and then take them out. So I've got time to go catch a shower real quick. That is part of the process. I will not show you, and because you don't want to see that. All right, I'll be back in a minute. All right, I am fresh out of the shower, and this is boiling and has been for a little while. We will let it boil for 15 minutes. We will turn it off and let them sit for 5 minutes, and then we will pull them out. I'll show you when we get them done. So we got them out, put them on the counter to cool and seal. And let me just tell you, you can't go wrong. It's just so easy with this Mrs. Wages pickle mix. Again, takes a little time, slicing pickles and heating your stuff up, but not that bad. But you can do, I assume you can do okra. Well, put it this way, I'm going to find out because I've got some okra growing, and as soon as I start getting enough for a run, I'm going to do at least a jar or two of okra, along with some cucumbers like this. So I would think that you can do okra. If you want to pickle, I don't know, tomatoes, what else do you pickle? I'm looking for stuff to pickle right now because this is just too easy, and I just really enjoy pickled things such as this. This is probably about 7 weeks worth of pickles for me, because I eat probably a jar of pickles a week myself. Just real easy. Mrs. Wages, I'll put a link to this below at Amazon. I'll put a link below to my canner that I just bought that I really like, that water bath canner. And then the tongs that I use come in a kit, a canning kit, that if you're going to do any canning, you really, really need one of those kits. It's going to keep you from burning yourself. Anyway, pickles, easy pickles. Me and old Miss Wage, or Ms., her, whatever the pronoun is. Me and Mrs. Wages. She calls herself Mrs., so I guess we're going to go with that. Me and Mrs. Wages, we made us some pickles. And they are really, really good. Kind of hard to mess up. Really hard to mess up. So that's why you need to do this way. All right. Make you some pickles. Grow you some cukes. Make you some pickles. Or buy you some cukes and make you some pickles. All right. We're going.